She's the Solicitor-General of New Zealand, Una Jagose, who yesterday reissued guidelines for prosecution, which come out infrequently. The original set of guidelines suggested that Crown prosecutors and those considering prosecuting people should take account essentially of their ethnicity. And there was much widespread criticism of what appeared to be racism or an element of racial discrimination when it came to prosecuting people, the government prosecuting people. They've been rewritten. Let's find out what's changed. Una Jagose, welcome to the platform. Good to have you with us.
Good morning.
All right. Is there any suggestion in the new guidelines that non-prosecution or a more lenient treatment should be given to people who are Māori?
No. The guidelines really emphasise that the background factors or the driving factors of crime that prosecutors need to think about are individualised. Individualised factors, that's how the criminal justice system has always approached crime, as individually. So there's those things like poverty or lack of education or abuse in care. Those are the individual drivers that the guidelines ask prosecutors to look to when they decide whether to charge.
So your initial guidelines were wrong?
Well, what was wrong was the introduced an element of uncertainty about what I was saying or what the guidelines
No, it
were
was pretty
saying.
clear what you were saying to any person in the street, and that was that Maori should get a special or different treatment, even in that individual context, than others.
That was what was taken from the.
Well, it was the only thing one could read. That was the only thing one could read from the guidelines.
And I didn't get that right, as I said, in the middle of October, which is why we took them down in order to make it absolutely clear that the criminal justice system applies to the individuals.
All right.
That's the change.
Okay. The new guidelines do ask prosecutors to develop a basic understanding of tikanga and actively promote te reo Māori. What business is it of a prosecutor to promote, for a start, te reo Māori?
Well, that's the requirement of the law.
Under what?
That the Crown under the Māori Language Act, that the Crown recognises and protects the language. So that's
what
where
language?
That comes from, as the guideline, the Māori language. That is what that legislation
is the primary
requires.
job of the Solicitor-General and Crown law to act on issues regarding language.
The primary role of the Solicitor-General is to guidance about what the law requires.
Had anyone specifically instructed you to put that in your guidelines?
No.
Okay, tikanga Māori. Why do prosecutors need to have a basic understanding of tikanga?
Well, as the guideline sets out, tikanga is part of our law. And so when
Well, hang on, where is it part of our law?
Well, it's in a number of statutes.
Which statutes? Can you name two?
Oranga Tamariki Act, Resource Management Act.
Are you responsible for administering the Resource Management Act or the Oranga Tamariki Act?
No, I'm responsible for giving guidelines about the law.
So I'm sorry, Ms. Jagose, it appears to me that you've still got some racist claptrap in your guidelines.
I disagree.
Do you believe, Ms. Jagose, that New Zealand needs to be decolonised?
It's not part of my guideline responsibility.
Do you believe that New Zealand needs to be decolonised?
As I say, that's not what the guidelines are
My
about.
question to you is, do you believe that New Zealand needs to be decolonised?
I understood you wanted to talk to me about the guidelines.
I wanted to talk to you about the entire set of
Solicitor-General.
circumstances surrounding your misstep and the reissuing of prosecution guidelines, as you are next to the Attorney-General, one of the most powerful people in a legal sense in regards to our justice system in the country. And I think the New Zealand public have a right to know whether or not you think this country needs to be decolonised.
Well, I don't agree that the New Zealand public need to hear me have an opinion on something that is not my role.
Then, if it's
my
not
role
important,
is to give
why
guidance
not
about
answer
what
the
law
question?
Requires.
Why
Because
not
that's
answer
not
the
my
question?
role.
It's not your job. I'd suggest it's also not your job to tell lawyers to have a basic understanding of tikanga or promote the Maori language. You seem quite happy to do that.
Both things are in law, that's why.
Do you ask lawyers to promote sign language? Because I'm sure I could find a law or a statute where promotion of sign language is important too.
We do ask our prosecutors to be aware of the personal circumstances of both defendants and victims.
Why do you mention Maori specifically then?
Have you read the guidelines?
I have read the pieces are prominent I was interested in, and I haven't. That's why I get hopefully an honest, straight-shooting public servant like you to come and give an interview and be publicly accountable for the hundreds of thousands of dollars she gets a year to do her job properly.
So if I complete my answer about sign language, the guideline does encourage that prosecutors understand both the defendant and the victim where that's relevant, and to understand how to ensure the victim understands what's happening. That might require different accessibility measures being taken so that the victim does understand what the prosecutor is doing.
Do you believe New Zealand needs to be decolonised?
Well, we're back to where we started, and I don't think we need
Do
to
you believe New Zealand needs to be colonised? Because if you do, I don't think any New Zealander would think you were an appropriate person to hold the position you do.
So not my role to comment on such a matter. My role is to give guidance about the law.
Do you believe in
That's
critical
my
race
subject
theory?
matter. Same answer.
Do you consider the New Zealand justice system to be unfair to Maori and systemically racist?